And we're back with the show. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Wanted to talk about just for a few minutes about what's going on internationally and abroad because this past year, coming a little bit out of the pandemic, even though some areas are still adversely affected by it, the box office marketplace in China still has not fully gotten back to where Hollywood is, and the movie industry here in the United States is actually enjoying and prospering from it. A ton of films have not been approved for audiences in China. So Hollywood is now looking into a different direction because of the success in other places with other movies, such as the box office industry in India. And the box office industry in India has gotten a big boost this year from movies such as RRR and more, with RRR now gaining a lot of worldwide acclaim. And if you actually read Variety last month, they actually did a cover story on RRR and the possibility that it might even be an Oscar contender, which would be a big sign for the Indian movie industry and Bollywood in general. So now that Hollywood is looking in another direction because not as many movies are being accepted for Chinese audiences, where do they look to now? They're now focused on the India box office. And here today to talk about everything going on with the Indian box office, about a possible successor for RRR, and why Hollywood is now looking at India as a new place. Not new necessarily, but a refreshed look per se, as far as increasing their attention towards the Indian marketplace. He's a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out whenever he's here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is Himanish Goel, and Himanish, you are always the man I come to when it concerns all things in the great country of India. Appreciate you stopping by on the show once again. Always good to have you here. But your thoughts, my friend, first up, before we get into the real overarching situation about Hollywood, the movie industry, and now their renewed attention on India. Before we get into that, your thoughts, the success of RRR leads a lot of companies to go ahead and play catch up. A lot of studios in India to play catch up to try and find the magical elixir to go ahead and get that new RRR or whatever movie that they can go ahead and achieve that kind of worldwide success that RRR made. Now, still, it is worldwide. It did not do a billion. RRR did not do $1 billion worldwide, and is there still a long ways to go for Bollywood movies as a whole? But still, great acclaim worldwide, over $100 million worldwide at the box office. A lot of great signs indeed. Your thoughts on a possible future for maybe a successor to the great movie that's received a lot of acclaim in RRR?
Yeah, I guess mostly from the success that RR has gathered, it's from an acclaimed director called S.S. Rajamouli. So it's definitely taken another huge step to kind of exploring other markets for within the Hollywood area, and it's which is one of the reasons it's led to the new film that's come out, Brahmastra, Part One, Shiva, to get that type of reach in terms of screen wise everywhere. So I guess coming back to your question, a lot of everyone is now trying to meet up to the vision of how now having more pan India films where there's because India has so many religions, and so they want to put actors in every area so they can make a big film, so which accommodates actors from every region possible. But few of them, not a lot of them have been working. Some of them have been working. A good example of one is the KGF Chapter 2 that did really well, probably directed by the same director, RRR. So if as India starts to do much more, well, as the Bollywood industry starts to do much more better with these types of films and genres, then maybe
Mm.
there's a possibility that they could stand as an opening film like a Top Gun Maverick at one point, or like something like a Squid Game that China presented. Well, I think it was Tokyo mostly, um, but as of now, from the recent films that have come out, not so much. We've been having a quite of a slump of films.
Yes, right now I see that.
Yeah, our Gangubai, KGF, and Bulbalaya 2 all did extremely well. And ever since that, just been like flop after flop after flop after flop after flop after flop. And the new film that just came that was so high pitched, Brahmastra, starring the newly wedded superstar couple of Ranbir Kapoor and Alia Bhatt. The VFX is grand. Storytelling they didn't do as well as expected. So hopefully, the only hope um, for sort of this year right now is all eyes on Vikram Veda. It's a remake of a Telugu film that stars Hrithik Roshan and Saif Ali Khan. Pretty much what it is it's like a gangster and a cop, and they're trying to find between what is good between the good folks and bad between the bad. So it's a kind of like a mind blowing thriller action type of film. People are really liking it. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the response is at the box office wise. But the same thing happened in 2017. A lot of our films didn't do well, and the ones that did, those were the popular ones. Like in terms of they rose above, and so did their careers. Like in an example, we had, we had a similar slope. Um, and the guy who just acted in Brahmastra, that time he also had a big film called Jaga Jasoos that also failed. And throughout that period, I'm trying to remember what the film that kind of gave that comeback was a Toilet Ek Prem Katha. But before that, the
Mm.
last hit film was Hindi medium and everything. And the big stars at 2017 was Irfan Khan, Akshay Kumar, Rajkumar Rao, Ayushmann Khurrana, Varun Dhawan, and they were able to get better scripts that year because if half of the biggest stars' film fail, but a few of them do pretty well, they obviously rise against the occasion, of course. So in this case, it's right now Alia Bhatt, the stars of RRR, the guy who was in Bulbalaya 2, Karthik Aryan, Varun Dhawan. If there's any actress you should be talking about who's been delivering hits after hits, it's Kiara Advani. She was in a film last year called Shersha, which is a very well done film. It earned a lot of accolades. The guy who was in that film had multiple flop films before that, and now he's going back on the trajectory. So she's definitely had three back to back blockbusters for sure. So I don't know what's ahead for the future. Hopefully, it stops the shift. Otherwise, someone will, because to see all the upcoming films flop would be a huge disappointment. Because right now we have a huge comeback from one of the biggest Indian superstars called Shah Rukh Khan, who has a comeback film called Pathan. It's coming out in beginning middle of January. It's a very high budget film. If that film also flops, that's going to be a huge loss in terms of just box office wise. Right now, Brahmastra, even though it earned so much money on first day opening, I don't know how has it been doing lately. So,
Well,
but
right now I can just tell you right now the from what I'm seeing, KGF Chapter 2 and RR are still considered the top two movies of the
two
year
movies,
in
yeah.
the top two movies of the year in India. And I know that the Kashmir Files is something that we talked about. It is still in the top five, but it's
Oh,
something
right.
that didn't resonate as far as to audiences worldwide the way it did in India. But still, you have those type of movies that are doing pretty good. And one of the things we talked about before was, is there a movie that's going to break out similar to what we've seen with all the Korean the movies and TV shows in South Korea that have exploded onto Netflix? And while RRR is the most successful worldwide of these movies, it's still nowhere near. It's just a drop in the bucket compared to a Squid Games or the incredible
Yeah.
Attorney Wu, that Kimmy Woo, that is another
Mhm.
sensational Netflix show that's been on the charts for weeks and weeks. So to
There's
see,
even
go ahead.
there's even everything everywhere all at once that did well. I think that
Absolutely fantastic movie. Absolutely fantastic movie, and one of my choices for the year. But again, that'll save that for the end of the year on that one. If you have not seen that movie, it's an incredible experience, and I'll leave it at that. But getting back to my final question for you today, and that is with the movie industry seeing severe limitations because especially Disney, with a lot of their movies not allowed to go ahead and be screened in China with new restrictions in place by China, not allowing a lot of movies to be seen. They are letting some go through, like Jurassic World, Minions, but there's only a select few that are allowed to go ahead and go in there. Plus, also as well, COVID is still, and the restrictions because of COVID is still very prominent in China, which is restricting the marketplace even more. Your thoughts now, because Hollywood is now paying much more attention on the large, vast potential audience in India, because eventually, from what I've heard, India will become the most populated country in the world, I believe, at some point in time down the road. Is that correct, or am I mistaken on that? Because I know it's over
but
a billion two at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, it's a billion two at this point. Yep.
So I
It's
think it
like
will become at some point in time the most populated country on the planet. I think. Not 100%
in
sure.
in some over a period of time, yeah, it will eventually. Eventually it will because people in India, if the story is good, if the reviews are good, they will go. And when the audience in India comes, it does fill in a lot of tickets for everyone.
So tell me about that. With Hollywood now paying a closer attention to the Indian box office marketplace because of what they cannot showcase anymore in certain countries around the world, including China. Tell me about the potential that India has as a country that can be relied upon for Hollywood to go ahead and showcase their wares, because Top Gun Maverick has been a pretty good hit in that country this year so far.
Um, well, the one thing that I know happens a lot in India is when an American film comes out, even Endgame or Infinity War, what they'll do is a lot of folks in India speak the language Hindi, so they'll take big Indian superstars to kind of do voiceovers for those American films for folks to watch the film in that translation. And the reason I'm mentioning that is they have many opportunities with the amount of languages they can subtitle that film with, meaning you'll get a vast more majority. Obviously, put it in English, but subtitling it based off every language will make um will make the Hollywood market earn more money than they've ever expected. And on top of that, they could be collaborations in terms of, I mean, right now, one of our superstars is in Gal Gadot and who's the guy that's from Fifty
Gal
Shades of
Gadot.
Grey? Gal Gadot. Who's the guy from 50 Shades of Grey? I forgot his
I
lead
know who
actor.
you're talking about. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I could forget his name too, but I know who you're talking about. So, but Gal Gadot,
Um,
yes.
and the lead actor for 50 Shades of Grey, and
Jamie
he,
Dornan.
yeah, Jamie Dorman and Leah Butt are in a film, in a spy film that I think Netflix is. I don't know if Netflix is doing or something, but they put in an Indian actress to kind of give it that flavor. And the same thing you saw in XX Return of Xander Cage, you had a Deepika Padukone with Vin Diesel. So they can be other collaborations in terms of getting the Indian audience to come, because a lot of the box office for the XXS was XXX Return of Xander Cage was from the American market and the Bollywood market, because people were coming to see that actress as well. So they could earn money from their films. They can earn money by doing collaborations. They could earn money by giving a 50-50 trade-off between the pan India films and the films that they try to present. And it could be a solid win for both sides of the market. From
I
that,
do know
that's what
that.
I.
I think also as well, as you saw with Marvel with the Eternals, Kumail Nanjiani, who is a Pakistani American actor,
Yeah,
he was able to go ahead and, I guess, introduce to a lot of viewers out there the style of Bollywood,
it
making
would.
his own Bollywood movie within the confines of the Eternals. So those are little steps in the right direction. But I can see Hollywood, because of the restrictions in China, because they were really in the last decade courting the Chinese audience, because it was eventually going to become, and it actually did become for a short period of time before the coronavirus hit, the largest marketplace, the biggest box office marketplace in the entire world. I can see them now, because of the restrictions that they're now involving over the past couple of years as far as films are concerned,
Yeah.
American films leaning towards a new market, and the Indian market with its large, vast, growing
Mm.
population as the as a big target and a growing target for them in the future.
Yeah, that's true. Well said. And on top of that, there was one. I- On top of that, I don't know if you saw, but in the Gray Man, they got a very popular Tamil superstar to come in
Hmm.
the film called Dhanush as well, and
Yep, and
Anthony
he's in
Joe.
there, and he's actually, if there's a sequel that's made, which is most likely, Netflix has initially greenlit a sequel for it. He most likely will be a part of that as well.
Be part of that as well. And there was rumors that I heard there's this really big sort of trade analyst for Bollywood and Gama, and he was putting, and not him, but there was just rumors on the internet that Anthony and Joe Russo were teaming up with um what's his name, with the Excel Entertainment to create an Indian superhero film. And I'm not sure if you saw, but the production company Excel Entertainment, the two guys who founded that company, Bollywood company, was Ritesh Sidhwani and Farhan Akhtar. And Farhan
Mm.
Akhtar was in Miss Marvel, that the Marvel Disney Plus series as well. So, as I mean, there's even Kamala Khan. I mean, you never know with this industry where things can go around. I mean, even though his character, no, I mean, I am definitely
Well,
spoiling it for.
the Miss Marvel universe covered. I know it did have Indian actors in it, but of course it was, originating. It dealt with India as far as the separation from India to
Yeah, yeah.
Pakistan, and it dealt with in that series as far as the
Mm-hmm.
serious nature of that, and then has evolved and more to the Pakistani side. But
Yeah.
still, that sends a message, or that actually that sends. They're trying to go ahead, and you can see Marvel trying to court that larger audience. And so it's,
Yes.
again, Hollywood has now a keener eye on the Indian marketplace. It's
Okay.
clear that
Yeah.
they needed to go ahead and look for alternate resources, and it looks like the Indian marketplace is going to be it for now. I mean, that's probably the largest body of population
Okay.
that has been relatively untapped as far as Hollywood movies are concerned. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to emphasize the Indian culture and also as well the Indian marketplace and embrace that in the years going forward. But Himanish, you've been a great guest as always. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
Um. Well, the one so there one's a good thought and one's a bad thought. The bad thought is a lot of the American remakes that the Indian film industry makes. Some go really well, some go extremely bad. Like the recent
Just
one
like
we
here
made
in
a
America.
This, like the Forrest Gump film, Oscar winner, best film in from the Hollywood film perspective, was remade in India as called Lal Singh Chadda, and they did try copying some of the iconic scenes, but it didn't really go as well. And so, kind of only remaking films that are relatable would be one thought that I would like to say, because I've seen this a lot of, like, I've seen this happen in 2017 and now this year again, where they started remaking a lot of films which sometimes just don't relate, or they'll just make a sequel for the sake of it, for the sake of making a franchise. And I guess the positive thought is, Um, I'm looking forward to some of the people, to some of the actors and directors that did a really good job last year, for their films that are coming up. Like, I'm really looking forward to the Shershaw actor's upcoming film, Thank God, and his Yoda film. I'm looking forward to the Goodbye film. So hopefully, fourth quarter will start to pay off for those losses we had in the summer. But if not, then 2022 will officially be the worst worst year for the Bollywood film industry. But
I don't
a
know
lot
about that. I kind of disagree with that because with the worldwide notice that RR has gotten and the acclaim that it has gotten, and the fact that it has become outside of India itself one of the most popular Indian films, I probably have to disagree with that statement. Even though, again, you have much more
that
knowledge of that box office area than I do. I'm just saying from a outsider's perspective, I think
that's
the
true.
success and notoriety of RR as a Bollywood film has given Bollywood more positive attention
Definitely.
outside of your country more than any other film before it.
So that so yeah, in terms of the 3 4 films that I can't, especially RRR, that has definitely upped the games for India's international market, especially with
Mhm.
pan India films coming out, which have not been doing well. But we would have to have a year like 2018 and 2019 in order to convince the Hollywood market that okay, they're a potential market, because the amount of successful Bollywood films we had that year in 2018 was just out of the roofs. I remember having to go to the theater at least like 14 times, or actually, I'm bluffing, 18 at least, because there were so many good films coming every month. And same thing with 2019, but it's just 2021 wasn't so bad. We had a few good films come on Amazon Prime and Netflix. But I feel like the only like major films that we had that were good but one didn't do well and one did was the Suryavanshi, the RRR, and KGF Chapter 2 are the only kind of 3 films that made like the 200 300 crore. Well,
Okay.
one of them made.
And I get that, and I understand the Kashmir Files in certain areas of your country. I was tracking that made a lot of money, and it is still in the top five overall as far as from your
Yeah.
country is concerned. But I can tell you from again from an outsider's perspective that notoriety and newsworthy, in the years before, I can tell you the media has really just blown off and just disregarded movies from India and the
Yeah, yeah.
Bollywood market in general. They just discarded it as whatever you want to say. I'm just going to tell you now that this year, reading the trade papers and following the trade papers that I have to do for Pop Culture Cosmos because I report on what's going on Facebook on Pop Culture Cosmos every single day, for the first time in a long time, I have seen more than one movie from India being represented, being talked about in a positive light, in a positive fashion, on a worldwide global basis. There may be suspect as far as where is it popular within India, but I will tell you for sure that it's at least it's a positive sign that these films are being talked about in a positive light and at all outside of a Indian audience. And that to me I think is a positive step. And I think it just shows that now that the movie industry is now starting to take the Indian box office a lot more seriously than it did before.
Huh. Well, I guess if suppose all the films that we have this year flop, I guess that would be our biggest achievement from 2022. Then I didn't know that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can just tell you that when these trade papers like Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline, they start talking about these movies from India for the first time that I can remember in a long time. I'm sure they have before with some other films, but really to the extent that they did earlier this year when these films were actually out in major releases, then to me it's a positive sign, and it's going to be at some point in time there's going to be a breakout hit from India that's going to go ahead and expand on a worldwide audience like nothing ever before. I think it's just a matter of time. So
Time.
hoping that not only for India that they will find that breakout hit, but that the movie industry as a whole can go ahead and find an audience in India that they can go ahead and rely on going forward. So I hope it's a
I
good
I got
two-way
I
street.
I guess just one more thought. I hope that I wish Andhadhun would have come during this year because that would have definitely become the breakout hit. If you ever have time, you should definitely watch that film because any person can relate to that film. I'm not even joking. I don't even want to spoil the film because it's too good to be spoiled because just the way the directors directed it, and that the guy who acted was uh, Kurana. He has a film coming out called Action Hero, and it's giving that similar vibe to me. So hopefully, let's hope that sort of theme works. I don't know when it's coming out, but I don't know. Sometimes it just ends up becoming another film that we don't expect. So I I wish the film that came out in 2018 came out next year, but
We'll
that's
see.
past.
We'll see what happens. But once again, it's Himanish Goel. I appreciate you giving us some insight on the marketplace in India and it's all that's going on as Hollywood is now gaining a larger eye on
Okay,
the
yeah.
Indian box office. And going forward, the Indian box office hopefully will have some creative hits out there that can reach to a worldwide audience to the level of,
Yes.
let's say, a Squid Games or any of the other big hits that are out
Okay.
there, Money Heist, or any of the other big hits that have exploded onto the worldwide marketplace. So I'm hopeful and
Yeah.
I'm optimistic that the Indian marketplace and Bollywood can go ahead and really be that place that can go ahead and thrive in the coming years. So looking
Yes.
forward to my friend. Truly appreciate it. Once again, it's Himanish Goel. Please go ahead and check him out whenever he stops by here at the Pop Culture.